spending has gone down in the last 2 years. So first time since the Korean War. So what do we have to worry about? I mean, maybe did you vote for Barack Obama? Maybe we should. What's your take?
So, thank you, by the way, for inviting me. This is a small room with a lot of people in it. So, look, here's my take on where we are with the budget. I do think that we had 2 years of Obama's, his first 2 years were a total catastrophe with respect to fiscal policy. Everything that Obama did was exactly the wrong thing to do in terms of the recovery. I like what my colleague Dan Henninger said right after Obama was elected when he was asked, what advice would you give Obama for his second term? And Dan said, look at everything you did in your first term and do exactly the opposite in your second term. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. So what happened was that after those, spectacularly awful first 2 years where the budget just went, through the roof, and we had a budget by the end of 2010 that was up to about $3.8 trillion, and about 25% of GDP, which is a record for peacetime. Then I do think that the correction election that we had in 2010 had a big, big impact. That all of those sort of Tea Party candidates who came in on an agenda, by the way, of reducing spending. I mean, that was what the 2010 election was about: reducing spending and rolling back Obamacare. And I happen to think that the Budget Control Act has been really one of the most effective budget reduction tools that's been enacted in Washington in a long, long time, at least almost as long as I've been in Washington, which is going on 30 years. And the numbers bear that out. We were at $3.8 trillion in 2011. We spent about $3.6 trillion in 2012, and this year that just ended, we were down to $3.45 trillion. That's a big reduction. We've had not off these phony baselines that we use in Washington. We've had a real, even not adjusted for inflation, 10% reduction in spending over the last, not just the last 2 years, over the last 3 years.